What's up, guys? It's Tony Holiday, and today I have a very special video for you guys. And that's because today is the first sponsored video of the Tony Holiday YouTube channel. I've received a lot of requests for sponsored videos over the past year or so. A lot of the products were great, a lot of them were not so great, but I was just kind of really picky about what I wanted to show on this channel. But for me, the kind of purpose of this channel is I want to show you guys stuff that not only do I use, but stuff that I think you're going to find useful as well. This channel is about music production, improving ourselves as music producers, and sharing gear and software and things like that that helps us become better music producers. So that's why today I'm really excited to weave this product into the tutorial today. The tutorial is going to be about how to improve yourself in terms of chord progressions, melodies, and getting better at making those from scratch. It's something that I've really struggled with. It took me a little while to kind of get the grasp of the basics, and that's what today's tutorial is about. The product that I want to show you guys, this bad boy right here, which is the Novation Launchkey, the 61 edition, so 61 keys. These guys are awesome. They make state-of-the-art technology when it comes to music production. I'm going to show you how this is really useful for you guys to start using in music production and to improve yourself as a music producer. So this tutorial is going to be made into two parts. The first one, I'm going to show you the practices, kind of exercises that I've been doing in order to get better at making melodies. This second part, I'm going to be making a beat using the Launchkey and some of the features with in tandem the practices that I showed you. A little bit of background about this whole thing is that I never grew up playing keys. I grew up playing guitar, so I had a musical background. I understand how chords were made and stuff. But when it comes to production, it's so beneficial for you to actually just look at a keyboard and then kind of go from there. You can use it for drums, melodies, chords, you name it. Whereas with guitar, it's just playing guitar. The things that I've really noticed is that knowing just basic music theory, how a chord is made, what chords are in a given key, rhythm of chords, and things like that really help you improve your melodies and your chord progressions in any genre. I put off learning keys for such a long time, and I think that's because I would see all these kids on YouTube and stuff clicking in notes, and they would come up with these brilliant melodies. And I kind of figured, why can't I do that? That's sort of the approach that I took over time, trying to click in melodies, failing, trying to click in melodies, failing, and realizing that I think I just need to go back to basics and learn a little tiny bit of keys and progress forward doing that. I've learned that that is the approach to take. And the reason being is that as soon as you kind of implement some things from the keys and actually playing them, getting the rhythm, understanding where certain things fit, it becomes easier to click things in just in the software as well and making them sound more realistic. The truth is just 10-15 minutes a day over the past month has really helped me improve in terms of melodies and chords. And I'm going to show you these exercises so you guys can start doing them too. If you already play keys, you might see this video and think, that's really basic, and you're absolutely right. There's no question about it. But if you don't, if you struggle with melodies, chords, or you're coming from an instrument other than piano, this video is definitely gonna be great for you. And even if you do know how to play piano, maybe stick around to see some of the features of the Launchkey, because it could be something that you'd be interested in using in order to kind of leverage your skills and just get you making beats quicker, faster. You know the name of the game. What I've been doing when I get up now is I just set up the Launchkey, I attach it to a Steinway grand piano in Logic, the stock one, and then I go through every single key, so 12 notes, and I play all the chords in that key, and I play each major and minor scale. Now, this again might seem like a lot, and the first time I did this, it took me, maybe half hour to 40 minutes. I'm now able to do it in, less than 10 minutes every morning, just given the muscle memory and, training my ear to realize what's coming next or where the next note is. I'm gonna show you how to do this on the Launchkey, and I really recommend you do this, 5-10 minutes every morning. If you can only do the major scales, that's great. If you can only do the minor scales, that's great. The important thing is just keeping a repetition of it so that you get really good at it and it's just ingrained into your ear from there on out. All right, guys, so this is the Launchkey here. I have it set up just next to my computer. And what it is, it's just attached to a Steinway grand piano in Logic. I think I have some basic effects from bus 27, which is I think the reverb bus that comes on the stock piano. If we take a look at the piano, this is what I've been doing every single morning to help train my ears and get me better at making melodies and chord progressions. So this note here, this is C. This note here, this is also C. This one is an octave higher than this one. In between these two notes, there's going to be 12 notes. And that's kind of just like the modern version of what we've adapted to using in modern music and things like that, modern scales. That's a C major scale. Now there's actually only 7 notes in that scale to get from this note up to this note. It goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8 is back to 1. Well, what about the black notes? Well, these are actually what's known as sharps and flats. The interval between each of these notes is what makes a scale. So what I've been doing is I've been going through each of these notes and I'll play the given major scale to do with that note. So I just did the C major. I'll do it one more time here so you can take a look. So we're going to go from the first note here, the 1, all the way up to the 8, or it's actually known as 1 as well, just the beginning of the next octave. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or back to 1. Now, if we're going to do that through all of these notes, we're going to have a bit of a pattern here. So if we go to D, this is the next note up. Other than the sharp, we're going to exclude those for the moment, but we're just going to go to D, and it goes like this. So that was notes 1 through 7 of the D major scale. And now if we're going to go from D, we go up to E. So let's take a look at this one. So that's the E major scale. Now this gets kind of a little bit more confusing here because we're not using the white notes anymore. Well, the formula for this is actually this. From the first note here, we're going to do a whole step up, and we're going to do this back in C major. So a whole step, we go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And you can see that on the C major scale because a whole tone is actually a jump from one note to the next one, and there's going to be one in between. So it's actually a 2-note jump. So you go 1, 2. A half would be just going up 1. So that's kind of where this half is here. There isn't a black note here. So that's actually what makes it a half jump, because it's just jumping from that to one to this one. No note in between. It's not a whole jump. It's a 1-note jump. Versus this one to this one is a 2-note jump because it does have this black note here. So let's follow that formula, but we'll do it for the D major scale here, not the C. So if we go from 1, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 and then the last one, half. So that's the same scale. It has the same intervals between the notes. We're just starting and ending on a different note. So what I've been doing every morning is I'll go all the way from C through D, E, F, G, A, B, back to C, and then I'll do the sharps. So C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp. And I'll do all of the major scales from each of those notes. So that same interval, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, to make the major scale. Then after I've done that, what I'll do is I'll make the chords that go in each of those keys. And I'm going to explain that to you next, showing you on the Launchkey here. So now the second part, the chords. So C, the scale from this note to this one, there's chords for each of these notes that are in that key. So on C, we have C major, which is these 3. And a chord is made up from the 1, the 3, and the 5. Now the chords in a major scale, it goes like this: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to the major. So now what I'll do at this point is I'll go through each of the notes, I'll play the scales that I showed you guys earlier, and then I'll actually play the chords to go with that scale. So let's do D major as an example. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, and last, the diminished, see here, and then back to major. So I'll do that for each of these notes that are in these 12 notes on the keyboard. So it'll be 12 different scales, 12 different sets of chords. The last thing I'll show you is how to make a minor chord and then also a diminished. Well, let's use C again as an example. If this is a C major, well, to make a minor chord, the only thing you need to do is actually take the 3 and drop it down a half step. So that's a C minor chord. C major, C minor. It's just as simple as dropping this 3 to go here, which is now known as a flat 3. What about a diminished chord? Well, a diminished chord is basically like a minor chord. 1, flat 3, 5, But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flatten the fifth too. So now it sounds like this. So we have three types of chords: major, minor, and diminished. And those are the three chords that will fit in each scale: major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, back to major for the one. So that's what I do every single morning. I wake up, I make coffee, I sit down, and I do the scales. I go all the way from C back to C, so 12 different scales and their chords, and I just do that every single morning. It takes me about 5 to 10 minutes now. It used to take me, well, the first time it was like a half an hour or something like that. Again, just because I'm training my ear, I'm getting the right chords, I'm making sure that I know the chords in each scale, and then I'm moving on to the next one. Once I've done the major, now I'll do the minor scales as well, which I'll save that for a different video. I think this is good enough for now today. We've kind of got the boring theory part out of the way. If you actually enjoyed doing that, then congratulations, the gonna this is gonna be a ton of fun for you. If you didn't, the good news is that this is where the fun part comes and where you can actually start applying it and making trap progressions, house progressions, pop progressions. It doesn't matter. The major scale and what chords go in each scale is what counts, and that's what you need to know every morning when you do that. One more thing too, you might say to yourself, well, Tony, I don't need a launch key in order for me to just go up and down a piano. I can use a piano or a $40 MIDI keyboard that I get on Facebook Marketplace. Here's the thing. Now we're gonna jump into the tutorial where I make a beat, and I'm gonna be using the Launchkey's features in order to do that. And it just makes it a ton easier. It makes it so much more fun when you're actually playing the instrument into the software versus just clicking notes in and things like that. Here's some features that I want to show you that really kind of helped me internalize a lot of the scales that we just did and make them into cool trap progressions. This section here I think is very, very useful, and this is all integrated with Logic. So there's a play, stop, record, a loop button. We also have undo, click, quantize, and capture MIDI. Now the capture MIDI, what it'll do is, let's say I play something and I find a cool melody and I don't know how I played it. I was just kind of improvising, doing my thing. Well, this capture MIDI button will actually just capture what I was messing around with on the keyboard and put it in as MIDI data. I don't actually even have to record. It's always listening when you're playing this. It doesn't necessarily lose that data. So you can capture it, you can isolate the part that you wanted, and then you can just go and affect that from there and make sure it's on time in your DAW. The scale root button, this is really cool. And what that'll do is it actually maps out these keys, so you're always playing in key. It's similar to the scale quantize feature in Logic, where if you're playing a note, it's always gonna be snapped to the right one. So if I actually turn this scale mode on here, I have it set to F sharp major. So this is the F sharp note here. If I play any of these keys, none of them are gonna be out of key, so. You'll notice too, sometimes the notes actually play the same note. And that's because what's happening is it's being snapped to the correct one. Again, this is just gonna make sure that you're always in key. I'll use this mode for melodies typically. Because I'm practicing these scales and chords every day, I won't use it for the chord progressions. I'll actually just use those chords as is when I do those exercises. But this is really great if you are making melodies and you just want to make sure you're always in key and kind of improvise here. So those are some of the basic functions that come on the Launchkey that are really useful and I've been making use of. There's actually a ton more that come with it, and I'll show you that on the website at the end of the video as well. Those are the primary ones that I've been making use of. So the capture MIDI, the play, stop, record, just doing it right from the keyboard. So if I screw something up, all I do is press stop, undo, press record again. What I went was from doing that take again, I don't have to go into Logic, mess around. It's just a simple half second, boom, 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 and I'm back to doing the take again. Also the capture MIDI, if I'm just messing around and I find something that I really, really like, capture MIDI, isolate that part, I can put it into Logic, it's good to go. This scale mode function, this is super useful for making melodies, staying in key, and just kind of having a mess about on the keys without worrying if you're going to be out of key or not. Now, let's actually get into the tutorial part where I'm making a beat using the Launchkey. All right guys, so let's move on to part 2 of this tutorial where I'm gonna actually make a beat using the Launchkey and the practices that I just kind of went over in part 1. Before we do that, however, I wanna show you something as to why it's useful to learn these things. It's great if we can spend time and get good at things and learn different practices and scales and chords, but if we don't know how to implement them, it's kind of pointless at the end of the day. There's, practice and then there's execution. This is a tool that's going to help you execute what we've just learned. So let's jump on to just YouTube really quick and Safari, and I'll just show you where you can find chord progressions that you might be experimenting with or you want to learn to play on your keyboard. There's a really great video that Splice does. I think Nick Chen is the guy that's actually hosting that one, and it's just Splice chord progressions. It's this top one here, 7 chord progressions you need to know. This is an awesome video giving examples of actually real world progressions that have been used in popular songs. Nick is excellent at explaining this. He's one of the guys at Splice that does this. First of all, they have the MIDI files you can just download. Again, we just learned how these are made, so I would encourage you to practice that on your keyboard. Basically, now he has the timestamps here, and these are actually the chord progressions in the number format. For example, in this video, we're gonna use the first one when I build this beat, just to kind of, again, hit home why you should learn these scales and chords. It's lowercase Roman numerals, so it's 1, 5, 4, and then the uppercase 5 here dictates that it's major. The lowercase ones dictate that they're minor chords. So it's a minor 1, minor 5, minor 4, and a major 5. And that's actually this song here, Life is Good, Future featuring Drake. They're doing it in G minor. We're gonna do it in D minor, and I'll explain why in just a second. This is kind of one of the videos that you can look into, is to get some chord progressions, get some examples for you to start playing. Another one I'm gonna show you really quick, Trap Minor Progressions Reddit, or Pop Progressions Reddit, or Hip Hop Progressions Reddit. So here we go, common chord progressions in minor. If I click this in trap production, this is a great example as well. So you have all the numbers here, and they even have the chords underneath. But for example, this first one, so it's a minor 1, major 6, and a major 7. And then they have these in all of these keys here as well. So I would encourage you to find a key you like, or find a key that you've gotten good at and you know the scale well, and just play those chords. Play the minor 1 key, play the major 6 key, play the major 7 key, put it into Logic, put different synths on it, add melodies and things. Make a beat using existing progressions that are in popular songs. There's so many songs that have the same progressions, and it's not stealing unless you're gonna do the exact same synth and melody and rhythm and everything. Then that's gonna be plagiarizing. But this is just a good way for you to get started making progressions and making melodies. Now let's get into Logic, and I'm gonna make a beat actually using that progression from the Splice video. Without further ado, let's get into part 2. All right, you guys, so I have Logic open here. Let's start making this beat. So let's maybe move up to something like 145 BPM, and I'm going to try and record this on the keyboard, and I'm going to show you the capture MIDI function as well as the record function as well. Let's do that Future featuring Drake track, the minor 1, minor 5, minor 4, major 5, and we're going to do it in the key of D minor. So let's get into that. I have a Steinway grand piano here. I'm just going to play these chords on the keyboard. 1 is D, so the 1 is going to be D. The 5 is going to be the A, the 4 is going to be G, and back to 5A. If we're doing that progression, the minor 1, minor 5, minor 4, and major 5, D minor for the minor 1, A minor for the minor 5, G minor for the minor 4, and A major for the major 5. Now, as you can see, I didn't record that in. If I just press this capture MIDI function, and now you can see it actually just appears on my Logic there. Now, this isn't the tempo that we want by any means. However, I don't have to go and play those chords now. I have them here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do Command A to select all these notes in the MIDI window. And then if I do Shift Option and I grab the end of the note, it'll actually change the length of all of the notes selected. So we're going to want to make sure it fits in this actual loop function here. We can grab all these notes. We're going to shorten them to a bar each, and then we can just drag them back like that. And then what I'll do as well is I'll shorten the MIDI window here. So now we're in here. We can just do Command A, and then we can actually do Shift and /. We'll do Keep, and this is what's known as forced legato. And that just makes sure that no notes overlap. They all end when the next one starts. So we've just taken that capture MIDI function, put it into Logic, and now we have this chord progression from that track. The cool thing about having this now too is you can change this in any key simply by moving all of the notes up however many semitones or whole tones you want. For the sake of this, let's say we want to have it in G minor like the actual original. So we're in D here, D minor is the first one. Well, if we move all of these up here to G, now we have this in G minor. And that's the cool thing about music theory once you get the hang of it too. The basic rules give you a nice foundation to kind of break the rules, if that makes sense. Let's get back to this in D minor and let's make this beat. I kind of like where this is at. I'm just gonna add some bass notes here. So what I did is I just took the bottom note, copy and pasted all of those, and then I dropped it down an octave. To do that, all you have to do is press Shift Option and then up or down arrows there, and you can move the octave. I like the way that that track sounds with a synth. We'll create a new track. There is a particular pad in Omnisphere I know that sounds good, and it's called Afterthought Signs. Let's make a little melody here on top of this. So I'm gonna use a piano again. Press record on the Launchkey. I screwed a couple notes up there. There's an undo button on this. I'll just press undo and it takes it away from Logic and I can just record it again. That melody works for me just for the sake of this tutorial. As you can see here, this note gets cut off when I come back to this note. So I can select all of these notes and just press quantize on the Launchkey. And now you can see these notes are all quantized to the nearest 16th note, which is set in the MIDI window here. Great, so I did a little bit of doctoring there with the melody. I got the bass melody playing on the keyboard and then I just fixed it in the MIDI window here. So let's kind of add some layers here and give this a little more kind of volume to the track. Grab those same chords down from the pad. Actually, let's just add an electric piano here. This one will add a bit of reverb and we'll layer it with a bell. Let's go to Serum, actually keys. We're gonna have these piano and this key and then these two pads here. One's an electric piano. Grab one more arpeggiator. Let's print off this Omnisphere. So we'll do that by doing Control B and then we'll bounce that out. So then this Omnisphere, we don't have it taking up as much CPU. Let's go into Dune 3 actually. So we'll go into ARPs. I think we can actually remove the 5s too. So let's group all this. We'll do a track stack, summing stack, and we'll throw a compressor on there and we'll EQ out some low end. And let's take a listen to this melody now. Let's move on to some drums. So we'll name this melody. I actually really like the Murder Beats drum kit from Splice. This is the Bandemic. I think it's the newest one at this time. All right, so we've got some drums picked out. Let's make the pattern now. A lot of the times when I'm making drum patterns, I actually don't like the whole melody to be going. Next up, what I will do is turn this into a MIDI region. And we'll kind of make this more of a human hi-hat here. Just do a bit of kind of volume leveling on this one. Next up, let's finish this off with the 808 here. I always like to make my 808s in a higher octave too. That just makes it easier for me to hear them so I can drop them down into the bass afterwards, and I know they're always going to be in key. So we'll force legato those. We'll drop them down a couple octaves. At this point, guys, I probably would just arrange this, maybe add a few effects, little ear candy things. For the most part, this is kind of what works for just a simple trap beat. Majority of it, I just wanted to show you how you can integrate the Launchkey using some of those functions. I didn't even really get to the tip of the iceberg as to a lot of the other functions on this. I've primarily been using it for like the capture MIDI, the record, the stop play, that quantize feature and stuff for now. The scale mode is really great if you don't want to use those scales that we've been learning. Again, I recommend it, but if you're just trying to make some melodies out and get them kind of working, scale mode is great to keep everything in key. I'm definitely going to take more of a deep dive into this and learn how to use it better, and I can show you guys more features as I do that and I start to use those features to the point where I think it's worth sharing with you guys. So the one last thing that I did want to show you before I go, this is just the Novation Music website here with the Launchkey. It says it's kind of meant for Ableton Live. However, after they made this, they integrate it fully with Logic and a bunch of other DAWs too, plus out of the box functionality with other DAWs including Studio One, Cubase, Pro Tools, via HUI. That also includes Logic Pro. All I had to do was download some firmware and it was fully integrated. There's also a couple different model sizes. So I got the 61 because I wanted more or less a good size MIDI keyboard. If you're a little more mobile as a producer, maybe get the 25 or the 37. The 49 would also be a good start too if you just want to do some scales up and down. And not to mention, it comes with a bunch of cool software too. Ableton Live 10 Lite comes with this, as well as a ton of these other ones too. Splice Sounds 2 months membership, that's great. Spitfire Audio Labs, Expressive Strings, phenomenal. Addictive Keys, so on and so forth. But yeah, guys, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I wouldn't promote something on this channel unless I truly believed in the product. This is one of those. I really do want to only share stuff on this channel that A, has helped me, and B, I think is going to be helpful to you guys. And that is this Launchkey here by Novation. Highly recommend them. They're a great company. Check them out if you are looking for a kind of premium MIDI keyboard to use while producing music. Get to know your scales, get to know your keys, get to know the chords within each key. Take 5-10 minutes every morning. I guarantee within a week of you doing that, you will find improvement and your ear will be better. I've been doing it for maybe like a month and a half now. I found it to completely help me when it comes to just approaching production. This is kind of the tools and foundation for you to do that in order to get to the places you want to as a music producer. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through this tutorial. I hope that was helpful for you when it comes to learning how to make melodies, chord progressions from scratch, as well as giving a bit of an overview of the Launchkey. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. There's gonna be tons more music production content on there. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. That's It's Tony Holiday. Big thank you also goes to Novation for sponsoring this video. Without them, I wouldn't have had the keyboard to show you guys. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.